Stalker 2 is out and has been out for a little bit over a week now, so today we are taking a look at some of the mods that have already been made for the game, thanks to passionate modders who started making mods literally day one. It took them 16 hours, maybe not even 12 hours, and they had already uploaded mods to the Nexus, so that is showing a lot of promise for the future of Stalker 2 mods. Now, since it's early days and there are no mod tools or support just yet, mods are quite superficial and rudimentary at this point. Most mods are just very simple tweaks or file edits to make minor changes to the game. So we're just going to look at some of the best from the first week. Now, a lot of people are having a lot of issues with performance and optimization. So therefore, there are a lot of mods focusing on optimization. There are simply too many, and they're too different for me to get into each single one and what specifically they do and how they're different from each other, etc., etc. So test them out yourself, as it will differ tremendously based on your specs and system in general, how much effect you get from these mods. However, there does seem to be a couple that people seem to have consistent success with. So we're going to delve into those. Now, if you don't care about the optimizations, you can use the chapters in the video to skip ahead. So first off, we have Optimized Tweaks S.2 by VynnGfx. Now, I have no real idea what this mod does in detail because the author doesn't really describe what the mod does in any depth, and it's also just a pack file that you put into your mods folder. But it does promise to boost CPU and GPU efficiency, reduce latency, accelerate loading and boot times, and enhance streaming and memory management. Now, I have installed this and used this, and it's a noticeable difference for me. And I don't even have significant performance issues. So this seems to be a very good baseline optimization mod to just have installed. Next up, we have Ultimate Engine Tweaks by Paolo X. This mod tweaks your engine.ini file to help improve the performance. This is supposed to remove most stutters, improve performance and stability, decrease input latency, improve picture clarity, and supposed to do this all with no visual loss. This is also one I've used. The difference wasn't super noticeable, but it did do something. So, hey, better than nothing. Now, there are also a couple of graphics mods or graphically focused optimization mods that I want to talk about. And the first of these is the graphics fix by HickeyChan. This improves the reflections, especially when downsampled. It also tweaks the eye adaptation, which is the changing of the lighting when you move from the interior to exterior or the other way around. The volumetric fog and the sun rays as well are supposed to be tweaked. Now, you can actually tweak the settings yourself with these text file edit mods, because if you have a little bit of technical expertise, it's not really that problematic to tweak it a little bit yourself, because it is just a text file. But you should be a little bit careful about changing too much stuff if you don't know what it does. Now, second up, we have the Enable Nvidia Ray Reconstruction by itzmojo. This is another great graphic mod. This essentially just uses the Nvidia denoiser tech instead of the default Unreal Engine Lumen denoiser. It's a very simple mod to install. You just have to install a extension file or a sort of plugin file. And it makes a massive difference. Massive difference. I always use this. It seems to get rid of pretty much all of this really weird noise and blur that happens with a lot of the reflections. So, fantastic mod. And the third graphics mod is the Better Performance and Way Better Reflections by So22. This is also a little bit reflection focused, obviously. He has one version that focuses on performance as well, so you can look at that if you want to try and squeeze out a little bit more performance. He also has a version that just focuses on the reflections. And this mod is really good to use with Ray Reconstruction as well, because it seems to synergize extremely well, and you get a really clear, crisp reflection in water and on surfaces. So really, really recommend these together. They seem to play off of each other extremely well, and really helps boost the visual fidelity and clarity of reflections and the game as a whole. So really, really recommended. So let's get into some of the other, maybe more interesting mods in terms of gameplay from this week. There was recently a patch for the game, patch 1.0.1. Keep this in mind because the mods might not be updated yet. So do make sure to check that before you install and just, brick a save or something. That would suck. Now, for some quality of life, we have instant load times by Hybred. So what this mod does is that it essentially just skips the intro movies and the shader compilation that the game does when you start it up. This improves the speed at which the game boots drastically. So this is a fantastic mod, really, really good quality of life. Next up, we have a couple of overhaul mods. These seem to be the most complete and fleshed out overhauls that exist for the game currently. And the first of which is Modular Hardmode by AniHVX. This is the mod I personally use, and it has several modules that you can pick and choose from. It has modules for general, difficulty, and economy, mutants, loot, weapon, and armor. And it has 3 difficulties for the economy. So you can have a relaxed economy, a veteran economy, and a hardcore economy. And what this does is that it basically pushes the game to be kind of more punishing the harder the economy difficulty you choose. But it also seems to me at least, be more the Stalker experience to play with the hardcore difficulty for the economy, because it prices up artifacts. So artifacts is really valuable, and it incentivizes you to go out and hunt artifacts. It also reduces the amount of money that you can make by just selling weapons and armor and stuff, because that kind of supports the feeling of the zone, you know, that like weapons and ammo and gear and stuff isn't really rare, because there's so much military, you know, there's so much military interests, you know, or like interests from armed people in the zone, that stuff isn't really rare. What is rare and what everyone wants are the artifacts, right? So it really just suits the lore and makes it a lot more interesting of a gameplay loop to play that way. So that's why I use that mod, and I'm really happy with it. The second of which is the Maklane's Overhaul. Relatively similar to Modular Hard Mode. It also is modular, so you can install the entire pack as a complete overhaul. But the author also has the modules available on their own if you just want to pick and choose. The main difference between these two is that Modular Hard Mode seems to be slightly more difficult, slightly more hardcore, and a little bit more punishing. So that's the experience I want, but if you want something that's a little bit milder, Maklane's Overhaul is amazing as well. So I can really recommend these two. There's also another one that I find very interesting, which is called Realistic Weapon Stats by Heidenreich. This is not a complete overhaul, but it kind of overhauls the gunplay and weapons, so I kind of want to bring that up a little bit. This mod mainly just increases the penetration, and it tweaks the damage values for weapons, so that it makes a little bit more sense and is more aligned with how the calibers the guns use would perform in the real world. So, you know, 545 and 556 kind of has a penetration value in the game now that is a little bit more believable and a little bit more comparable with how they would actually function in terms of penetration in the real world. So what I recommend is that you try this out with the overhauls. You can also try it on its own to adjust the gameplay. The main problem with this mod at the moment is that it's only affecting the player's weapons. But that can be kind of good, because if you play on veteran, vanilla, and you just find everything to be a little bit more bullet spongy, you can use this mod and it might help you, and it might be the perfect balance for you. So I really recommend that one. Again, you can also use it with the overhauls. Just make sure you merge properly. And yeah, it's going to give you another sort of layer to adjust and tweak to try and find the perfect gameplay experience for you. Next up, we have a couple of mods or tools that are very, very handy to have when playing Stalker 2. The first of which is UETools by Cranch. What this does is it enables the console and allows you to use console commands such as noclip. The reason this is important is that the game has known game-breaking story bugs where basically doors won't open or things won't trigger properly. One of the most common ones I've encountered is that the doors won't open. So the noclip is extremely useful then, because you can type UETools_ghost and it allows you to walk through doors. And then you can type UETools_walk and return to normal. So that allows you to pass by these game-breaking bugs where doors won't open. So very, very nice to be aware of. You don't necessarily have to install this now if you haven't had that problem, but keep it in mind, because you might encounter that before the end of the game. Next up, we have Stalker 2 configuration file merge tool by Sveite93. So this is a tool that merges the CFG files or the config files for your mods. So this is very, very handy if you start having enough mods to experience conflicts, or you just want to make sure that everything's working well and you don't have these weird manifestations where multiple mods are kind of fighting over which one is supposed to tweak the game. So very, very nice to have. Next up, we have some gameplay mods, and the first of which is the Medkit and consumables rebalance by Andronidas. This is a very interesting mod that makes the meds and consumables function in a more hardcore manner. So, for example, it removes the instant heal from the medkits. They now heal you over time instead. Bandages no longer heal you at all, they just stop bleeding. Energy drinks have a slightly milder stamina effect, but last for 5 minutes instead. They can also be stacked, and so can the medkits, by the way, which allows you to pop like 3 medkits and just have a steady heal over time during a fight, which is pretty cool. The trade-off obviously is that you're more vulnerable as it doesn't heal you instantly. With the energy drinks, you can actually stack them to the point of having no stamina use on sprint, which means you can sprint infinitely until the effect wears off. Vodka is more punishing to drink. It has a bigger, more comprehensive negative effect, but the radiation removal also lasts for longer, which makes it more usable. Water gives you a buff to stamina, and food heals you a small amount over time. So this is a very, very good mod, very comprehensive, well-made mod. It also works very, very well and very, very much complements the Overhaul mods that I talked about earlier. Very, very good to use with those. Next up, we have a couple of ammo box mods. The first one is Descriptive Ammo Boxes by MJRamon. This is a fantastic retexture mod that basically changes the texture for the ammo types in the game, which makes them much easier to distinguish, so you can easier see which ammo type you are actually using or what ammo type you are looting. So very, very cool, very useful mod, very well made. Next up, we have Readable Ammo by JCaleb. This kind of functions the same way. It doesn't retexture the boxes. Instead, what it does is that it adds some text to the icon for the ammo types. This allows you to very quickly see what ammo type you are using. It will tell you FMJ if you're using standard ammunition. It will tell you AP if you're using armor penetration, etc., etc. So very, very good mods, both of them. You can kind of choose which one you care about. Do you want the boxes to remain the vanilla textures? You can instead use the readable ammo and just have text added. Or if you just want to retexture it and see it that way, you can use descriptive ammo boxes. Both fantastic mods, highly recommended. Next, we have Mutant Loot by SomberX. This mod adds loot to the mutants in the game. This means that you can loot your mutants after you kill them, and you can sell that loot to the vendors. This was actually a feature added to the original games through mods, and it was very popular. And it's seen, for example, in the Gamma mod pack. And here it is again. So this is a great feature because it allows you to get a little bit of money when you're killing mutants. They aren't entirely an ammunition dump, and it can actually help you pay for the ammo that you spent killing them, at least partially. This is also really good to use together with Modular Hardmode or Maklane's Overhauls, as this allows you to have a little bit more incentive to actually kill mutants, or at least make it not so punishing to have to kill them. So this is a great mod to use with the hardcore overhauls. It's especially great with the Modular Hardmode mod, as MJRamon has versions for this to fit with each of its different economy difficulties. So highly recommend you try that. Next up, we have Painter of the Zone by Sunn. What this does is it improves the blood with custom splash decals and increases the distance these will trace at. So to summarize, it basically just means more blood and better looking blood. And this makes a huge difference to how visceral the gunfights feel, especially afterwards, like after the gunfight is over. It's a bloodbath, and I love it. It's very, very good. Makes the game feel more brutal. So very worth installing. Next up, we have Equalized Aim Sensitivity X and Y by Strangworth. So this is a very simple little mod, but what it does is that it gets rid of the incredibly annoying difference between the horizontal and the vertical sensitivity values in the game. This is very noticeable and kind of frustrating to deal with. So it's a very good quality of life mod, very easy to fix. You simply just add a little bit of a line to one of the text files. That's it. So highly recommend that. Next up, we have some mods for carrying weights. Carrying weight is one of the most discussed things about the game, I think. One of the most discussed systems in the game. A lot of people aren't very happy about how punishing it is and how restrictive it is. I personally like that. It makes you think about, you know, what kind of stuff and what kind of gear you bring with you. It makes you think about what type of stuff you loot. However, not everyone's very happy with that. So we're going to take a look at some mods to adjust the carrying weight. The first one is called Weightless Equipment by Tailech. This basically makes anything that you have equipped weigh nothing. So any armor or weaponry that you're using won't weigh anything. This mod is very balanced and very okay early on, but later on, it effectively kind of breaks the balance of the game, because you can start equipping really heavy armors that have a lot of protective value and really high-end weaponry with effectively no downside. So that's something to keep in mind. We also have Klew's Modular Carry Weight by theKlew. This allows you to add modifiers to your carrying capacity. This allows you to push the carrying weight quite far above the vanilla values, which if you want that, that's great. However, do keep in mind that once you go over like 30-40 kilos of extra carrying capacity, you effectively null out the weight system in the game. But if you want that, that's the mod for you. You also have a mod like Weight by Valerider, which simply just adds a static 20 extra kilos of carrying capacity. I think this is probably the best balanced mod because it allows you to carry extra weight, but it doesn't really break later on when you start getting heavier gear and heavier weapons and stuff like that. So yeah, probably the best middle ground mod. Next up, we have Real Weapon Names by nullmoxy, which basically does what it says. It changes the names of the standard non-unique weapons in the game to their real world name. So the MP5 is now called the MP5 instead of the Viper, and so on and so forth. So this is a very, very simple little mod, but in my opinion, essential. So let's look at some mods for the artifacts in the game. So Artifact Rebalance by Danny Bash changes a lot of the artifacts in the game. And what it does is that it tries to rebalance them in a more unique way between the useful effect and the dangerous effect. So it's a very, very interesting mod, and it makes artifacts a lot more interesting than the vanilla game makes them, because the vanilla game usually just has a positive effect, which can differ from artifact to artifact, and then they all just give you radiation, which just isn't very interesting, you know? It's also one of the problems with artifacts early on in the game, in my opinion, because they give you a static amount of just radiation. You don't have a lot of radiation protection early on, which means that you're just not going to use them, because it's just not worth taking that much radiation, because the radiation just builds at too high of a rate for the artifact to be worth using. So this is a step in the right direction to make artifacts a little bit more interesting and usable. Very, very good mod. Now, if you want to stick with the vanilla artifacts and you don't want to change them too much, I would suggest that you install a mod like No Radiation from Artifacts by Zodiac. This will do what it says and remove the radiation effect from the artifacts in the game. This is pretty good early on because, like I said, it makes artifacts more usable because you don't have to have that much radiation protection in order to actually use them. Once you get a little bit into the game, however, you could actually swap this mod out for Legendary Artifacts No Radiation by John Cena 1306 instead. What that would then do is give the regular artifacts their radiation effect back, and instead you would only have the Legendary Artifacts that didn't give you radiation, which would make them a little bit more usable and them also more worth getting. So that's another path you can take. Next up, we have No Aiming ADS Zoom by Hokidoki. This mod removes the FOV change, or FOV zoom, when you're ADSing your gun. A lot of people might like this effect. Personally, I don't, so I use this mod. I also think that it makes scopes a little bit more valuable, because you can't effectively zoom in with your iron sights anymore. Now, using scopes are actually kind of important if you're fighting at range. So, good mod. We also have Empty Hands Zoom by the same author, Hokidoki. This adds a Daisy-like zoom effect when you don't have anything equipped and you use your right mouse button. Very, very good for scouting out locations or trying to identify which faction, you know, distant stalkers are and stuff like that. Cool mod. We also have Red Shells by Holiday. This makes your shotgun shells red, like they should be. Simple as that. Next up, we have Axie's Stealth mod by Axie, obviously. This tries to fix the stealth in the game and how most enemies, you know, react to you and discover you based on different situations like weather, what stance you're in, if there's foliage, etc. So very, very good mod, very mandatory if you like a stealthy playstyle. Next up, we have Longer Days by JCaleb. This allows you to change the duration of the day cycle in the game with various options between twice as long and 24 times as long. This helps make sleeping relevant as well, as you ideally don't want to walk around the zone in the dark. So if you have a longer day cycle, it makes it worthwhile to actually seek out a bed and sleep throughout the night. Next up, we have Grok's Less Grenades Thrown by Grok. Obviously. This effectively makes NPCs stop spamming nades in firefights, which can be very annoying, as they do it all the time in the vanilla game. So this mod has two settings. It has less and even less, so you can choose whichever you think sounds best. Next up, we have an audio mod called Audio Enhancement by RoyTT. This mod enables binaural audio and sound occlusion in the Unreal Engine. Now, by enabling these Unreal Engine features, it does seem to create a conflict with the game music at times, which can be quite annoying because it leads to the music sort of just cutting in and out. So I would recommend, like the mod author does, that you turn off the game music to avoid that problem. Now, there are also a few other mods that are focused on audio, but they mostly seem to do the same as this mod. I have not found a mod that does anything different. They all just seem to add binaural audio and sound occlusion and to tweak the quality of the sound. So there doesn't seem to be a functional difference. They're all also just ini edits, so they're very simple to do. But you don't have to necessarily use this one. That's just the one I use. Next up, we have a couple of miscellaneous mods for the game. First up, Monster Energy Drink by Seraphim228. This mod replaces the regular non-stop energy drink in the game with the either original monster or with the White Ultra monster. It doesn't change the limited edition non-stop, however. If you want to do that, we have a mod called Monster Energy Pack by King Sparks. This mod also retextures the regular non-stop to the original monster, in addition to retexturing the limited edition non-stop to the Rossi. So a couple of options there for monster connoisseurs. Next up, we have the Duga Radar Death Screen by Fubox. Pretty good mod, pretty simple. It basically just changes your death screen from the regular sort of very over-the-top bloodsucker in the vanilla game to the Duga Radar. I think this looks way better. It just, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a cooler image. So I use this one. But yeah, that's all the mods I had for this video. This is just week 1, and there's already so many mods to go through. So hopefully there's going to be even more amazing stuff coming in the next few weeks. And I'm very, very excited for the modding community to get their hands on mod tools. That's going to be amazing. And I'm really excited to see what people can do with this game at that point. But yeah, this is showing a lot of promise for the future of Stalker 2. Hopefully you guys found this video useful. You got some cool ideas for mods you want to install. If there is anything you think I missed, if there's a good mod that you would like to recommend to me and anyone else who is watching this video, post it in the comments. Let's help each other out a little bit. But yeah, that's the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys the next time.